Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Mega Man X4, brought to us by Capcom. Now Mega Man X4 of course was the fourth game in the X series, and the first that was developed exclusively for the generation of consoles featuring the Sega Saturn, Nintendo 64, and PlayStation 1. Mega Man X4 brought some new stuff to the table, including being the first game where you actually could play a full game as X and as Zero. Mega Man X3 introduced Zero as a playable character, but it was only for short periods of time. X and Zero both play very differently from one another, with X being ranged and of course Zero being up close with his saber. This really does make the game feel different when you're playing as each, and while they both have the same goal in the end, the storylines that are told through each one of their gameplay is different. Being on the PlayStation, the game added some beautiful animated cutscenes, but unfortunately the voice acting was still not up to par, and was still on the same level as Mega Man 8, that was also released for Saturn and PlayStation 1. So here we go with Mega Man X4 for the PlayStation 1. After the introduction movie, we then get to our main title selection screen. Here you can of course start a new game, load up a save from your memory card, or go into the options to change up some control settings as well as the mono or stereo sound settings. After starting up a new game though, you can play as Mega Man X or Zero, and in this run we're going to be playing as Zero.
Who are you? My masterpiece. But who are you?
After him. He is my nemesis. Our rivalry is what gets me motivation in life. Now go. Destroy him. That's an order.
But wait!
Emergency, all maverick hunters on call should assemble immediately.
The same dream, again.
All maverick hunters on call should assemble immediately.
After our opening animation and opening dialogue, we then drop down into the first level of the game, and like the other X games, there's an opening stage to kind of get you familiar with the controls and everything. Not very overall difficult, but still a fun stage nonetheless. Here we get a real chance to use Zero's saber for the very first time, and he has multiple attacks that he can just keep attacking over and over again with the sword, doing different swipes with it and nice combos in order to hit most enemies. The only thing with Zero is, of course, you have to be up close to an enemy in order to do significant damage to him, and that definitely takes a little bit getting used to. The basic control, though, for X and Zero is relatively the same as far as dashing and jumping goes. Instead of being able to take other Maverick's abilities in the game, Zero gets new techniques for his saber, including the ability to actually double jump, which actually really comes in handy. After we find out that the station was pretty much doomed and unfortunately was coming directly towards Earth, we then move on to the second part of the level where we drop down into the city below. Here you'll have to be careful of a bunch of rocks that will fall down from above. These rocks will instantly crush you, causing you to lose a life if you're not careful. Don't dash too quickly, as that seems to be the easiest way in order to get squashed. I have to also say that throughout this run that I'm not as good with Zero overall as I am with Mega Man X. I guess you can just chop that up to practice, and overall using Mega Man a lot more in games than I get to use Zero. After we are introduced to Iris for the first time in the game, it's now time to battle the giant dragon that's been chasing us in the first part of this level. While this guy is very large, unfortunately, he's not too difficult to deal with. You can keep jumping close to him and keep slashing him over and over again. He will fire out some projectiles, first just firing out a couple of shots, and then he will sometimes fire a whole line across the ground. If you're able to get in close to him like I was at the beginning, just keep jumping and attacking. Zero's saber does a ton of damage to this guy, and he'll be taken out pretty quick.
Brave soldiers of Repliforce, we have all been wrongfully judged as mavericks by the humans. We cannot suffer this indignity and live in disgrace. We will build our own nation of Reploids. But remember, this is neither about insurrection nor rebellion against our human creators. This is about our liberty and security. We must battle for our own individual rights and our own survival. Together we will build our nation, a sanctuary for all Reploids, our own utopia. Let us forge onward towards a new golden era for the Repliforce.
I too share the general sentiment. Take heed, we have no other choice. Let us fight valiantly, with courage and pride, without fear, for we are the Repliforce.
The most powerful army in history!
The General has finally taken action. And now, my Maverick Hunters, what will you do? I'll be watching closely from here on out.
After we make it back to our base, we then get an introduction for each one of the Mavericks and their levels. We can then select whichever Maverick we would like to do battle with first, and just like with my run X, I'm going to be doing Magma Dragoon first. Magma Dragoon's level of course takes place inside of a volcano, so there's going to be lots of fire and different rocks trying to take us out here. One of the more annoying enemies in the entire game is introduced to you at the very beginning of this level, and that is the spike balls. These guys bounce all around different rooms and against walls and all, can definitely get in your way, but thankfully Zero Saber definitely helps you take them out easy. You'll then have some platforming to do, jumping from platform to platform while avoiding flaming rocks coming up and down from the large pits below. This is a common theme for the level, so you'll get used to it rather quickly. Watch out also for some arcing flames that bounce out of the ground and go to another part of the level, whether it's behind you or in front of you. You'll have to get underneath the arc to avoid taking damage from the flame. Run up this hill quickly, avoiding all the flaming rocks coming down towards you if possible, and then get to the very top and open up the door in order to enter the second part of Magma Dragoon's level. The beginning of the second part has more platforming, except this time around the platforms that you stand on can get broken by the different flaming rocks, so you're unable to stand on one for a long period of time. After climbing up here, take out this guy here, and then you're going to want to do a dash and jump in order to get to the left side. Zero's able to actually jump and dash a little bit farther than X, it seems, and you can actually get your first energy increaser in the upper left corner here. Now, unfortunately, Zero does not have armor upgrades like I mentioned earlier, so the only things you have to worry about are energy tanks as well as the extra pieces of health. Jump inside the giant mech, right across the lava, taking out guys along the way, and when you get near the end of it, do a whole line of rocks by destroying them really quickly with a dash or jumping and attacking them, and you'll make it to Magma Dragoon's lair. Now, Magma Dragoon is one of the toughest Mavericks to fight in the game, and he's a good way to start off because you'll really get your skills mastered here. If you're able to take care of him pretty easy, you shouldn't have too much trouble with the other Mavericks in the game. Magma Dragoon has multiple different attacks here. He fires out a flame like a Hadouken straight at you, and usually does one above and then one below, or vice versa. You'll have to jump over both of these to try to get in close to hit him. He also does a flaming uppercut, just like Ken and Ryu from the Street Fighter series, after which you can actually back away quickly from him to avoid the uppercut, then getting close in order to hit him a couple of times with the saber. His other big devastating move is he will charge up a big blast of fire. When he does this, be sure to jump onto the left or right wall, whichever one is opposite of him, in order to avoid all the flame walls while he's doing this. After the flame dissipates though, if you're quick enough, you may be able to dash quickly towards him in order to get close enough to him in order to hit him. Unfortunately, near the end of the fight, he'll send out these glowing orbs. These orbs go down into the lava on the far right or left sides of the screen, and it causes a giant wall of lava to fly out of the ground. When this happens, combined with the big giant flame move he's able to do, it can damage you pretty good. However, when you're getting hit by this, instead of just trying to dodge it and avoid getting damage, just running close, take the damage, and keep hitting him over and over again with the saber. Thankfully, by this point in the fight, he doesn't have a ton of health left, so you should be able to finish him off. Like I mentioned earlier, Zero doesn't adapt abilities directly from the Mavericks, instead he learns new techniques for his saber. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I am not going to try to pronounce all the names of the different Zero saber moves. To be honest, I am not going to attempt to say the different names of the moves that you end up getting with Zero. I have no idea how to pronounce some of them correctly, and don't want to end up butchering them. However, once we make it back to the base, we're able to select our next Maverick to take out, and this time we're going to take out Split Mushroom. Split Mushroom has one of my favorite openings to any of the stages. He has this at the beginning of this part and the second part of his level. The giant spiral staircase that you can travel up that has a pretty cool background and graphical effect when dashing up the stairs themselves. Try to avoid the shield enemies by just jumping directly over them if possible, and the flying guys can easily be taken out with just a normal saber hit. In the next area, you'll continue dashing over some small pits. You're in a little bit of a confined area, so this gets a little bit troublesome. The move we ended up getting from the last Maverick fight was the ability to do the uppercut, and this is going to come in big handy during most of the game. You can do this to take out a ton of enemies, and it does actually have a little bit of a flame to it. So it's really cool that Zero ends up kind of getting a Street Fighter move in this game. I always like this segment with all the vines growing around the different walls to the left and right. There's also a ton of spikes on there though, so you have to be very careful of them. You also have those weird ladybug type enemies that like to float around and hover around, and these can get in your way, especially in the tight areas that we're traveling through. Watch out for each one of the drill enemies that form in the middle while you're trying to climb up the ladders, and then continue up north. When you make it to the top though, it's time to battle a mini-boss. While this guy may not be as easy with Zero as he is with X, doing the uppercut will definitely help you out and drain the guy's health pretty quick. If you're able to pop him up here, you'll be able to hit him with multiple uppercuts because the uppercut is cancelled when Zero hits his head on a ceiling, and this can definitely help you out as far as doing some extra damage to him. You don't have a ton of platforms to stand on, so you will have to try to do this quickly, but once he's taken care of, we move on to the second part of Split Mushroom's level. The second part of the level starts up just like the first part did, except you have a different colored staircase this time around. While traveling up though, you have all the spiked bouncing balls, one of my least favorite enemies like I said in this game. Just keep running quickly, doing a dash every so often, and then wait a second or so for all the bouncing balls to come near you or bounce over you. You can use Zero Saber to take out most of these guys, but some of them will actually land on the ground, flatten out, and then charge towards you. At the beginning of the next part though, be careful and be quick, because you have to climb up here in order to get the extra piece of health before it ends up falling down. The drills above will keep doing this in different areas of the stage, so just move through this area rather quickly to get to the elevator segment. Here is where things slow down a bit, as you'll have different plants popping out of the walls. Using Zero's uppercut ability will actually help you out here, as well as you can actually just do jumps and attacks with the saber in order to take these guys out as you're moving up. Here you'll have to wait for the elevator to rise up and destroy the platform so you actually can get over to the left, and then do it again here so you can actually get back over to the right before you run headfirst into the plant above. When you make it to this platform on the left side, you can grab a big chunk of health as well as a big item replenishment, though we don't need it because the only move that uses Zero's item move is his Giga move. And then you get your battle with Split Mushroom. Split Mushroom has a couple of abilities. He can make clones of himself that bounce along the ground and actually jump all towards you after he forms a whole bunch of them. Staying close to Split Mushroom during this and keep attacking him until the clones get ready to attack. He'll then jump up into the air, cause a whole bunch of spores to come down. Thankfully these do not affect you. He then splits himself in two and starts jumping all around the room, in which case you can attack him while he's jumping all around, either by using the uppercut while he's in the air, or by just attacking him normally with the saber when he's up close. After running around and jumping around, he'll then jump up into the air, spin around, and crash headfirst into the ground. When he does this, be careful not to be exactly right up on him, because a cloud of purple spores will fly out of him when he does so. Overall though, I actually do find Split Mushroom a bit easier with Zero than I do with X. Once he's taken care of, we get another new ability, and can select the next Maverick to do battle with. For beating Split Mushroom, we get one of the best abilities in the game, and this is the ability to do the double jump. And this is definitely going to come in handy for Zero, as different platforming elements end up being a lot easier with Zero than they are with X due to that double jump. Then it's time to select the next Maverick, Web Spider. Web Spider's level is one of the prettiest levels to look at in the game. You have a big waterfall that you started off on, the trees are very colorful, including a rainbow actually in the background, which adds a nice little effect. Also kind of reminds me of Aquaman from Mega Man 8. Dash through the beginning area, jumping and slashing, now with the double jump or jumping attack slash that you also have, in order to take out most of the fish enemies that are in your way. Keep slashing at all the big fish robots that try to jump and get in your path, as well as just keep doing the slashing attack while jumping in the air, and you'll be able to take out any of the enemies that pop out of pits for the most part, pretty much in the entire game. Here I do a nice little uppercut to take out this fish guy on the platform before getting to the lowering logs from the big waterfall. Just move through this area rather quickly. You can use that double jump to your advantage if you do need it, or you can just keep doing the dash in order to actually make it through. Work your way up here. You can actually double jump in between all the different rock formations, or you can use the ladders to climb up as well. While these big guys do get in your way, they are rather easy and only take a couple of swipes with the saber to get rid of. After dealing with two more of these guys, break open the door and walk into Web Spider's area number 2. While there was no collectible for Zero to get in the first area, there is one in the second area that we will be grabbing. It's the same area and spot that we got it with X. Watch out for these web guys, as they are one of the more annoying enemies to tangle with probably in the game, as they form and then they end up sending out a little robot away from them, and the whole thing is electrically charged, so jumping over them can sometimes be a pain. Using Zero's jumping attack can definitely help you take out these giant hornet nests, because it pretty much destroys them in only a hit or two. Also, by doing the jumping attack, you're also able to take out all the little hornets that come out of the hive as well. Drop down here, you can grab a big chunk of health if you do need it over on the left side. While in this tree platforming area, watch out for the snake robots that fall down from the ceiling and like to crawl along the grounds of all these different platforms. After this electrical web guy, do the uppercut to this tree in the left side. You'll be able to find another piece of health that allows you to get a little bit more to your health meter. When climbing up here though, we're right near the boss chamber. Use the uppercut once again in order to break open a piece of this tree, and then drop down. You can grab the large piece of health on the left side here, and it'll completely replenish your entire health bar right before we end up doing battle with Web Spider himself. Web Spider is still in my opinion one of the easiest Mavericks to deal with, even as Zero. Thankfully, with the jumping attack that we got from Split Mushroom, you can definitely help you out, but even with just the normal Saber jumping attacks, you shouldn't have too much trouble with him. When he appears, he will cause a little web to come out of him, and then he'll start chasing you around the room with it. Just do your best to do the double jump, or by clinging onto a wall in order to avoid accidentally getting hit by it, which will cause you to freeze and allow him to get a free hit on you. After about half his health has been depleted, he'll drop down here and cause all these webs to appear all around. He'll then start bouncing around the webs, going back and forth. This is a little bit trickier to hit him with, and every so often he'll stop in order to send out little spiders everywhere. Just keep doing the jumping attack in order to hit him over and over again to drain the rest of his health. We have 3 Mavericks taken care of. It's time to move on to Maverick number 4, and it'll end the first half of the game for us. And we're going to be doing Cyber Peacock. Just like with X, Cyber Peacock's level is one of the more interesting ones, as you have a time limit in order to get the upgrades in this level. When you walk through this first hallway, you end up getting a different radar around you, and it then tells you to hurry up. You'll then have to quickly dash and jump and attack all throughout all the different enemies in order to get to the end. And if you do so in the amount of time needed, you'll get an S rank. After getting an S rank, you'll be rewarded with an item. Since Zero doesn't have armor upgrades in the game, they only have 2 collectibles for Zero to get in the level, so the first time getting through with an S rank, you only get an extra life. The second area is a little bit tougher as you have different platforms and different levels, though doing Zero's jumping attack will easily destroy the yellow orbs, allowing you to easily get an S rank at the end of it. By doing this though, you get another piece of heart, which allows you to end up getting more health. The final segment of Cyber Peacock's first area is of course the toughest. Here we're once again going to be using the double jump and attacks in the air in order to help us get through a lot of these enemies. Be very careful with the teleporters that end up causing the spike balls to come out of them. Be sure to dash through these rather quickly before the enemy is able to spawn from them and you won't take any damage. You'll have to bounce in between each one of these platforms. Don't take the ladders, it ends up taking way too much time. And be sure to time your jumps correctly through this little tight area to easily destroy these guys. If you're able to make it to the end though before you get a rank down, you'll get another S rank and be rewarded with an energy tank. We now move on though to the second part of Cyber Peacock's level. The second area of the stage is a little bit more straightforward, though it does have a pretty cool premise. You have all these different switches that will completely flip the stage around, causing these giant balls to end up falling and crashing all over the place. While these guys can definitely get in your way and get a little bit annoying, you actually do need them to progress. You'll see here that one of them is able to destroy these different purple crystal platforms. What you'll have to do is time correctly so that you're able to get this guy to fall down at the right point so it ends up breaking the platform so you can continue on to the next part of the level. Once you make it though into the next area, it's time for a boss battle against Cyber Peacock. Cyber Peacock is just as easy as expected, as he will randomly spawn and you can easily hit him with an uppercut. Just be sure to step just a step or two away from him as soon as he starts spawning. If you're able to do so, you'll avoid taking any damage from him, and you can just keep hitting him over and over again with the uppercut. You can of course attack him normally with just the saber, but since the battle ends up being so easy, there really is no alternate strategy in order to keep hitting him over and over. He'll then spawn in the air. This will actually give him the ability to actually keep doing his normal attacks, but you can once again keep hitting him with the uppercut as his weakness in order to keep draining that health. Once his health's been depleted fully though, you can take care of him and we move on to the halfway point of Mega Man X4. After completing the first 4 Mavericks of the game, you then have an actual cutscene that plays out between Zero and the Colonel, instead of like with Mega Man where you actually got to face him in a bonus level.
Colonel!
What?
I'm disappointed in you, Colonel. Ah!
What do you think you're doing?
It's not too late. Stop the coup now.
Never.
If that's your decision, prepare yourself!
Stop, please! Brother, please! Don't you remember? Zero saved my life.
Oh. Very well then. I'll spare your life for now. But next time, there'll be no mercy.
Zero, please, don't fight with my brother. If you do, I'm afraid that one of you may end up...
Someone must stop Repliforce.
Zero!
After the cutscene, you're then able to actually save again if you would like, and then you're back to actually selecting the next Maverick, and we're going to be starting off the second half of the game with Frost Walrus. Ice levels and snow levels are always some of my favorites in games, whether it's a platformer or any really type of game. And while not an overall amazing level for a snow-themed stage, the added little touches of having Blizzard Buffalo from X3 being in the background at the beginning, and then during the halfway boss, this level also contains one of my favorite robots in the game, the big Yeti type guys. They stand still and then they pound the ground with their big hands, causing ice to come out. This level also features the little angry snowmen that when they see you, their eyes glow red and they just have to charge at you. There are a few collectibles in this level, so you have to be on the lookout for them, but thankfully they're after the beginning area. These platforms that get formed out of the snow do break after a few seconds of them forming, so you have to move along this area quickly to avoid taking damage from the spikes. When you make it here, you'll have to use Zero's double jump in order to get the container in the upper right corner and get our first collectible for the level. For the big Yeti guys though, a big jumping slash will easily be able to take care of these guys. When you make it over here, you'll have to wait for the ice platform to slowly rise up. Eventually it will hit a wall and end up breaking, in which case you'll then be able to start falling down. Just do so quickly amongst all the raising platforms so you can get to the bottom area. Just don't drop too quick or you'll end up falling down to the pit. Right to the right of this though, it's time for the mini boss of the level, and as you can see, Chill Penguin is frozen in ice in the background here. This guy can be a bit of a pain, but thankfully with Zero's uppercut ability, we'll be able to do some pretty good damage. Of course, with that uppercut being flame property, you're able to do a lot of damage to an ice guy. You can also destroy the icicles that are hanging out on the ceiling above. Every so often, this guy will cause those icicles to fall down while moving around. He also will go full ice ball on you with giant spikes and bounce all around the room. But thankfully with the uppercut ability, we're able to prevent him from doing all that. The next segment is filled with ice blocks, and these ice blocks sometimes contain nothing, different enemies, especially the tools, or different item replenishments. They also have a collectible in them as well that we'll need to grab near the very end. The jumping slash attack is a good way to get some of the ones destroyed above you, and when you head up here to the top corner, you can see one of the last ice blocks contains an item we need. Be sure to grab that though before you move on to the next area. After dashing through some more matools, you're then introduced to these giant swan type creatures. These robots will every so often stop in their tracks and cause a giant blizzard to happen over the entire level, making it very slippery and hard to navigate. Thankfully though, if you're quick enough, you can destroy these guys before they're able to get that move off. After going through a few of these guys though, you will have a couple of pits, and then you'll finally be at the boss chambers for Frost Walrus. Frost Walrus may be huge, but he's also pretty slow. His weakness, of course, being the flaming uppercut will definitely help us out. When you hit him with the uppercut, he will bounce backwards and start slowly sliding across the ice. For the most part though, his other main attack though is going to be sending icicles up into the air that can come crashing down on you. Also, he'll stop in the left or right sides and start causing all this icy breath to appear. When he does this, a giant icicle will appear, crash down, and cause all these little ones to spring off of it. Just keep attacking and focusing on Frost Walrus in one of the corners with your normal attack, or the uppercut, and you'll be able to drain his health and defeat Frost Walrus rather easy. The next Maverick we're going to deal with is Jet Stingray, who has definitely one of the more interesting levels in the game.
Jet Stingray!
Jet Stingray's entire level takes place on this bike. You can do a charging move with the bike or fire directly normally with it in order to actually take out some enemies, though using the normal charge with it will definitely help you out take out most guys. The only thing is though, by doing the charge you'll be near the front of the screen, so you have to be careful to watch out for pits. When you make it to this platform, stay on it and don't jump off of it at the end. Instead, you'll just ride it down so you can grab more health to your meter. You'll then go crashing through a whole lot of barricades. Just keep charging for it and you should be able to get to the area. You can also do the charge while jumping in the air, and this can help you out avoiding more pits and being able to save you at a last moment's notice. When you make it to the end, the whole tunnel you're in will explode, signifying that you're at the end of the first area, and we enter Jet Stingray Area 2. The second half of the level is a little bit more of the same, however, you can end up getting squashed during this part instead of falling down a pit since you're actually riding on water during this part. When on this platform, jump to the next one and then do a dash in the air. If you do it correctly, you'll be able to easily get to the next platform that has a whole bunch of boxes on it. You'll destroy these boxes and grab another one of the tanks. Once you grab the big piece of health at the end though, you can enter the battle against Jet Stingray. Jet Stingray is one of the more tough battles to do with actual Zero. The weakness he ends up having is the ice move we got from Frost Walrus, which allows Zero to jump in the air and launch down towards the ground with a big icicle. Time these hits correctly while Jet Stingray swoops down and swoops around you, and this will give you an opportunity to actually hit him with it. You can also time your jumps correctly to hit him with a jumping attack while he's floating in the air, throwing out all the tiny tadpole robots. After he gets over halfway down his health, he'll start firing out red tadpoles instead of the blue ones. These ones can definitely get in the way as they home in on you a little bit more and they're a little bit more aggressive, but still relatively easy to take care of. Eventually, we're finally able to get in that last hit against Jet Stingray, and we move on to the next Maverick. We have only 2 more Mavericks left to take care of, and the first of those 2 we're going to take out is Storm Al. Storm Al also has a pretty interesting level, as all the platforms are made up of different ships that are part of a giant fleet of airships. Near the very beginning of the level, you also get the giant blue armor, and this is the coolest of the 2 armors in the game. This one allows you to throw out a homing shot by doing a charge up with it, and can destroy a ton of enemies easily. You can also use these against the big giant guns as well, in order to take out a large amount of them before actually getting even really close to them. Be very careful though, after you make it through that little passageway, you'll have to quickly jump to the platform and grab the piece of heart before the giant laser comes crashing down Independence Day style and destroys the platform. Thankfully, the very large guns can either be avoided by jumping over them or attacking them directly with that homing in shot. Eventually, if you take too much damage, the armor will end up exploding, but thankfully, once you jump out of it, you still have all your health. And usually by the time that happens, we're already at the second part of Storm Al's level. Be careful of the robots here as they fire out giant lasers at you. You'll have to destroy the wall that's blocking the one before you're able to take him out. When you make it over here, you'll have to wait for the platform to slowly start going over to the right. After avoiding all the spikes along the wall and the ground, you'll then enter a boss chamber to fight the mini-boss for the level. Now this guy can be taken out with a bunch of jumping slash attacks here. He does summon all these other robots to appear once he actually opens himself up, so you'll have to be careful and do your best to avoid all the laser firing robots that are going to fill up the room pretty quickly. Once he's done though, you then have a series of little ladders as well as a full health replenishment, so even if that battle did bang you up a little bit, you'll have full health as you make it to the top and get ready to battle Storm Al. Storm Al likes to just hover around the room, and then when he gets close to you, he'll sometimes try to grab you with his talons. When he's just floating back and forth though on the ceiling part of the level, you can easily do jumping attacks in order to drain some of his health. He will then go off screen and then appear on one of the other sides, so be careful as he can just sneak up on you sometimes behind you. His other main attack though is he likes to fire out all these little lasers, but thankfully if you're underneath of them, you can avoid the lasers easily. His big powerful attack is sometimes he will cause all these different tornadoes to appear out of the ground, and this can be pretty devastating. Here I'm using the Giga Strike though from Zero, and this allows you to hit the R2 button in order to do a big attack that does actually take up energy, the only move that takes up energy for Zero, but is also the weakness of Storm Alec and do pretty good damage to him. Once he's done though, we have only one more Maverick left to beat. The final Maverick we're going to be facing off with is Slash Beast, who's one of the tougher Mavericks definitely to fight in the game. Now Slash Beast's level takes place on a very large train. Overall though, it's a pretty cool level with all the backgrounds moving and all, and has a cool effect of every so often a little robot ends up appearing, causing the gaps between the trains to end up falling apart as he blows up the connecting piece. Just be careful when this happens though that you quickly make it over to the other side so you don't end up getting knocked off screen and fall down below. There's a ton of little Matools running out through this level, and while they're cute, they are going to get in your way. Just have that saber button ready to easily charge through these guys. The worst thing to watch out though for is the giant laser firing guns on the tops of the different areas of the train. You'll have to take several hits with the saber in order to do significant damage to get rid of these guys. When you make it to the end though here, it's time for the mini-boss of the level. To destroy this guy, the best thing is to just get in close and get to the top part of him and take out the gun on top first. Then drop down and do a big jumping attack with the saber in order to keep hitting each part of it every time you jump up, and you'll see that his health will drain really fast. Once he's done though, we move on to the second part of Slash Beast's level. The second part of Slash Beast's level pretty much starts off the exact same as the other one, as you have more train riding goodness and pretty much the same enemies, though you don't have to worry about the little robots breaking up the train during this segment. One cool thing is, this is another level that actually does feature one of the mechs. This time it's another one of the red mechs like we had in Magma Dragoon's level, so you can have some fun with this, running through it, jumping up and attacking and knocking out bats, as well as the other robots that line the ground. The last piece of heart that we actually have to grab in order to finish up our health meter is right there out in the open, so you can easily grab it, and now you have a full health bar. Eventually you'll make it to the end, and you'll have to get out of the mech and jump on top of the train. The train will then come to a stop, and you'll have to travel on foot for a little bit. During this segment, of course, there's going to be a ton more robots, as well as the bats flying overhead dropping the bombs on you, so be careful of those while jumping over these big pits. After a little bit of this, though, you will find a giant health replenishment, so if you took some significant damage, you'll be able to get that. You'll then jump on another part of the train. Here, while jumping on this part, you have a few more enemies to tangle with before you actually make it to Slash Beast himself. Like I mentioned, Slash Beast is one of the tougher Mavericks to deal with. Thankfully, there's now a wall on the left side that forms after you start the battle, as this can help you avoid some of his moves. Now, one of the things to do against him is the lightning attack that we got earlier on in the game, as this will help you do significant damage because it keeps hitting Slash Beast over and over again. His main moves are he'll jump in the air and try to stomp you with his big feet. He'll do a jumping kick move, in which case he'll send two wave-like blades out at you. He'll also stop and try to do a charge back and forth from the left to right sides of the screen, so you'll have to jump over him a couple of times while doing so. Either jump over him and keep attacking him with the jumping attack, or use the lightning move in order to get rid of his health and complete all the Mavericks for Mega Man X4. After a scene with Iris, we move on to the spaceport, the first of the final levels of the game. The final levels of Mega Man X4 are not only really short, but they also aren't nearly as tough as some previous X games' final sets of levels. The very beginning, though, there is a ton of robots, but doing your jumping slicing attacks while jumping to each platform will help you get through these guys. In the next hallway, you will have those bouncing spike balls that I'm not a big fan of, so you'll have to do some jumping and swiping attacks there in order to get rid of those. Here you'll have to climb up a series of ladders, taking out some different enemies in each one of the chambers after climbing up a ladder. When you make it to the top, though, it's time for the boss fight of this area. Unlike X, this is the first time Zero gets to go one-on-one with the Colonel when you actually get to play it. You can use Frost Walrus's move to do some diving attacks on him and do some pretty good damage to the guy. His main forms of attack, though, is he will send out a series of waves at you. There's 3 of them, one above, then below, and then another one above, that you can easily jump over. If you time this correctly, though, you can keep doing your jumping slash downward attack with the ice in order to keep hitting him while doing this. He'll then disappear and reappear right on top of you, in which case just quickly dash away or jump over him and do another one of the down slashes in order to continue doing damage. Thankfully, though, this fight ends up being pretty easy overall, and we move on to the next level. Now this is where things get a little bit tougher. While the level itself is pretty straightforward and pretty short, the boss ends up being rather tricky to deal with. You have a bunch of hallways with just the big firing laser robots, as well as just the big mech-type robots. Try to keep your health up pretty high, though, before you enter the boss chamber against Iris.
Stay with me, brother.
Just like with X where double turned on him, you now have to actually battle Iris. Iris in this giant flying mech will have all these little mines appear from her. Doing jumping attacks will destroy a large portion of these mechs. Every so often though, the crystal that is contained within her will actually appear, and this is what you actually have to hit in order to do damage to her. So once this appears, keep doing your best to keep jumping over and over again doing the jumping attack to keep hitting this crystal. The more you can hit it every time, the better, and you'll also have to be very conservative about your health during this fight, because it can get rather tricky, and there's a lot of damage being done by all the different enemies. When the giant lasers start coming out, be sure to hug the left or right walls. This way, if you time it correctly, you can avoid the diamond firing the laser from the bottom, as well as the one being fired directly at you from the mech itself. Thankfully though, we're finally able to drain all the health from the crystal, and we get a nice little cutscene here, and also has one of the more infamous lines from this game.
Iris! Iris!
Zero,
Hang in there, Iris.
please, stay away from Replophos. Let's live together. In a world where only Reploids exist.
Iris, there's no world just for Reploid. It's only a fantasy.
Yes, I know, but I wanted to believe it. I wanted to live in a world where only Reploids exist. With you.
Iris! 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 Ah! No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
After one of the worst voice acting moments in this game, we move on to the second half of this level. You'll have a couple of the big shield robots trying to get in your way here. You'll climb up a big ladder, and then you can either drop down or go forward, and we're just going to be continuing on going right. In this room, do a nicely timed jump so you can avoid hitting the spikes on the right wall when you get above to that platform. Then keep running and quickly get through this area doing jumping slicing attacks every time you move to the platforms. Also be very careful of the giant pink lasers that will appear, and even if you take a lot of damage here, thankfully there's a full health replenishment at the end before you drop down into the boss chamber.
My fate is sealed. I have...
It's now time to battle the final form of the Colonel himself, and this guy is huge. Now for Zero, it can be rather tough to do damage initially to this guy. The best way to do so is when he's coming near you, be sure to hug the left wall, get above him, and then do a dash in mid-air, and at the last second, do a swiping attack so that you'll do the spin attack and be able to hit him a few times in the head. Then, you'll have to wait for the opportunity for him to fire out his large arms. When he does this, you'll be able to get close to him and keep doing the jumping slicing attack when you're actually standing directly near him. The problem with this though is of course you're going to be avoiding all the ring projectiles that he keeps firing out, and these can be quite devastating and deadly, so do your best to keep attacking while dodging as many of the rings as possible. If you find yourself taking too much damage and you get low on health, be sure to have those E-tanks available, because this is one of those opportunities when you may need to use one. While this battle can be a little bit long and tough, thankfully he doesn't change up his pattern at all, so with a little bit of practice you should be able to get used to jumping from arm to arm, and doing your best to avoid all the different rings. After we deliver the final hit to the Colonel, we have a little bit more dialogue before we move on to the next level. We now move on to the actual final level of the game, and like many classic Mega Man titles, one of the last stages, it's always time to revisit all the Mavericks you've been fighting throughout the game. Thankfully at the beginning here though, they do give you plenty of health to replenish some of your E-tanks if you did use them, and make sure that you have plenty of health going in to the Maverick chambers. Start off by going into any chamber that you would like to travel to. I'm going to be going into the upper right, starting with a rematch against Magma Dragoon. Now, the strategies for all these fights are going to be the exact same as before, though you can use the Giga Strike a lot more if you would like to, because there is item replenishment in the room, but it really only is going to help out against certain Mavericks. Here though, we will be using their weaknesses to the best of our ability, because even with Zero and the weaknesses, it can sometimes be tricky to hit these guys. Using the lightning move that we got earlier on from Web Spider is definitely one of the best strategies to keep hitting Magma Dragoon over and over again. Do your best to jump over some of the flames that he does fire out, though you don't have to be too conservative with your health here, because you'll always have a big piece of health replenishment every time you finish off one of the Mavericks. For Web Spider, our strategy will remain the same, just like it did last time, doing some jumping swiping attacks while he's in the air, and doing our best to avoid the little web that he fires out to try to get us stuck. When he uses all the webs bouncing all around the room, do your best to avoid the little spiders he fires out and keep doing those jumping attacks until you drain all his health. Next up is our rematch against Cyber Peacock, and just like last time, he'll teleport near you, in which case you can just step a little bit away from him, and then turn back and do the uppercut move. Repeat this over and over again, and he'll never actually be able to get off one of his moves. Now this is where things get tough once again, as we have to do a rematch against Jet Stingray. Now this fight is just about as tricky as it was last time, as we're going to be trying to do our best to hit him with the Icicle move while he's in the air, though that can definitely be troublesome, and you'll have to also avoid all the little tadpoles he throws out as well. Wait for him to swoop down at you, and this is your perfect opportunity though to hit him with that drop down ice move. After a very long rematch, I once again am able to complete his battle, and I grab some extra health before moving on to the next chamber. Here is the rematch against Split Mushroom. He'll start off by jumping over on the left or right walls, and the lightning move that you ended up using from Web Spider will actually help you out here against Split Mushroom, as it actually instantly destroys all the little clones that he ends up spawning. But it also does devastating damage to him whenever he's around, because you'll be able to hit him and stop him in mid-move. Here we face off with Slash Beast once again. Now with Slash Beast, it can be tricky to actually hit him, so we're going to be doing the jumping swiping attack in midair to do a large amount of damage to Slash Beast as he goes jumping around trying to stomp down on us. Whenever you see him getting ready for the jumping swipe attack where he tries to throw out those wave blades at you, just try to back away a little bit and then jump in between those. The best thing though is when he bounces back and forth between the left and right walls trying to hit you that way, you can easily jump into the air and hit him several times in the air. Thankfully, after a battle with Slash Beast, we move on to a much easier rematch in Frost Walrus. The big guy will of course go bouncing all around, sliding all about the ice every time we end up hitting him with the big flame uppercut. He may be able to get some of his icicle moves out from time to time when he's doing his big ice breath, but just keep attacking him normally or with the uppercut to avoid most of the damage that can possibly be done from those icicles. Storm Owl is once again one of the tougher ones to deal with, as you can use the Giga Strike to once again help you out here in order to hit him in the air, or just do your normal jumping attack to keep hitting him over and over again. Watch out though for the tornado move when he lands on the ground, as well as the little lasers that he likes to fire out from his fingertips. Once all the Mavericks have been defeated once again, grab the big piece of health before entering the center chamber. When you arrive, you end up running into a very familiar face.
What's our current situation?
Commander!
Where's that red maverick that wiped out Garma's unit?
Inside. He's inside that door.
You may leave now. I'll take care of this personally.
By yourself, Commander?
I don't want any more of my people being sacrificed.
Look, it's Commander Sigma! Incredible. Now I'm certain there's no one who's a match for the Commander. What?
Take that red maverick to the repair center and call Dr. Kane. I wish to have that maverick studied.
Commander, are you okay?
Silence!
After a very important cutscene to not only the game, but also the entire X series, we have a little bit more dialogue with Sigma before we actually get to face him.
Are you ready for your final journey?
The Sigma fight is broken up in, of course, multiple different parts, the first being the Grim Reaper form. The best way to deal with this form is with the uppercut. This flame move will devastate him pretty good, doing a big chunk of damage to him every time you hit him, and also cause him to disappear off screen before he's able to get some of his moves off. Every so often, though, he will start to do a giant swipe across the screen with his giant sickle. Be sure to try to do your best to step out of the way of this when he does so. He'll also stay in about the center of the screen and charge up all these different energy balls that'll start moving around the room. As soon as he starts doing this though, hit him with the uppercut to get him to drop the energy he's already forming and to stop him from doing the entire set of energy balls. With the first form taken care of, Sigma reveals his true self, and it's time to battle the second form of Sigma. Start off by doing some jumping attacks while he's in the air, especially when he stays in the center of the screen throwing out the giant sickle once again. He'll throw it out once, in which case you can easily jump over as it just flies around the room. However, he'll then throw it and it'll land in either the wall or the ground, in which case whatever it lands into, he'll send out little electrical charges all throughout it. This can be a little bit difficult to dodge, especially if it's in the floor area near the beginning of the fight, because you'll have to cling on to the left or right walls in order to avoid taking damage from it. He also throws out a ton of little boomerangs, and unfortunately you're unable to destroy these, so you'll have to do your best to dodge in and out of each one of these to continue hitting him. Thankfully though, the jumping attack does a decent amount of damage, and once he's taken care of, we move on to the final boss of the game and the final form of Sigma.
Prepare to become space dust.
For the final form, thankfully they give you a little bit of health at the beginning of this fight. The main fight consists of several different parts, as you'll have the lower left corner with the giant head that'll cause all these tornadoes to come out at you or try to suck in rocks to spit at you. He has a giant gun form in the upper right corner that of course has a big laser he fires out at you, and between these two forms is the head mode, and these different colored heads all have a different element to them. The easiest of the three being the ice one because it moves rather slowly, but with Zero you'll still have to get in close to him in order to actually do damage. The lightning form is probably one of the hardest to actually dodge, as it forms in the center of the screen and keeps trying to hit you with different lightning, but doing your jumping attack can hopefully help you take out this head. The flame is probably the worst of the three though. It ends up appearing on the left or right side of the screen and follows you up and down no matter if you jump or not, and keeps firing fireballs at you until you're able to destroy it. For the gun in the upper right corner, when you get that form of Sigma, do your uppercut to him as many times as possible while also avoiding the giant laser from his gun. If you time this correctly, you should be able to drain his health and get rid of him in 2 or 3 different times that he ends up forming in this form. The other form is a little bit more deadly and harder to take care of, and of course they both have separate health bars. Thankfully, with the lower left corner, if you get the giant head, he'll use the tornado every so often, and if he's able to do this, you won't take any damage from the tornadoes themselves, thankfully, and you'll be able to charge in close and keep attacking normally with the saber. When it goes back to the actual gun form in the upper right corner, once again, keep hitting him with all those flaming uppercuts. Just be careful to avoid the laser when he throws it all across the ground, as well as you don't get too close to hit one of the spiked heads that may be underneath of it. Thankfully, just normal saber attacks do significant damage to the lower left corner head, and if you're lucky enough to keep getting him to do the tornado move instead of the rock suck-in move, you'll have a much better chance of getting through this fight. But always have your energy tanks available because you can get devastated rather quickly. Once you destroy one version of him, the other version will still have to be taken out, except of course that's the only version that will then spawn from then on out. Once we deliver the final hit though, we've defeated one of the toughest Sigma fights in all of the X series, and we get to sit back and enjoy the ending to Mega Man X4.
So, this is what happened to me. This is my fate. I couldn't save anyone after all. Iris!
Please stop, brother! Zero.
Iris, did we Reploids all turn out to be Mavericks after all?
After a pretty satisfying animated ending, we then get our ending credits for the game. Mega Man X4, whether you're playing as X or as Zero, is still one of my absolute favorite games in the X series, and probably the last one that I had a ton of fun with when it initially came out. From here on out, they tried to change things up, adding some things and changing up the gameplay slowly with X5 through X8. So for many, X4 is actually the final X game that really captured everything that everyone loved about the X series. At the end of the credits, you do get a thank you for playing, and of course a presented by Capcom screen. Before that ends up scrolling by though, you get a last little bit of story before the game comes to a close. You then get one last Capcom logo before the game loads up and goes back to the main menu, and you can start the game all over again. However, just like with the X run of the game, I did want to show off one more thing before I close up the video. Just like with X getting the ultimate armor by putting in a passcode at the beginning of the game, and then finding a chamber throughout the game, Zero has the same thing for a special armor, so I wanted to make sure that I at least showed that at the end of the video. Just like with X, when you're actually at the character select screen, this time we're going to highlight Zero and put it in the code of holding in the R1 button, then pressing the right button 6 times before releasing R1, then you hold circle and press start. You'll then have the nice little bonus of having Zero in a different color palette, wearing mainly a black outfit overall instead of the red one. Now unfortunately it doesn't show up in the cutscenes even during the actual Maverick Hunter headquarters, but it does show up in each one of the levels, and it has a nice little extra thing and a bonus for playing as Zero. While it doesn't change up the gameplay or anything, it is a nice little bonus. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.